Every morning, I rise at 6:00 a.m. Old habits cling tightly, especially after 77 years of life. The refrigerator door slams in the kitchen. My daughter, Sarah Thompson, is preparing breakfast for her husband, James. 40 minutes later, she knocks on my door not out of courtesy, but to ensure I haven't passed away in my sleep. I sit up slowly, my joints creaking with age, each movement a reminder of time's toll. My room, a former guest bedroom on the first floor of this Boise, Idaho house, was remodeled for me when I moved in with Sarah 5 years ago. Moved in feels like a strange term. I've lived in this house for 2 decades, though no one knows the truth. Sarah's knock is punctual, sharp. "Henry, you're not dead," she says, her voice tinged with annoyance rather than concern. "Not yet," I reply, as I do every morning. My words a quiet ritual. Breakfast in 20 minutes. Don't be late. Her footsteps fade quickly. No pause for a response. Sarah, my youngest at 43, has always been a challenging child. Her mother, my late wife, Clara, passed when Sarah was just 15. Perhaps that's why she's so distant, blaming me for outliving her mother. Or maybe it's simply her nature cold, calculating, hard to reach. I stopped searching for reasons long ago, the effort too exhausting. I dress carefully, choosing a clean long-sleeve shirt, the fabric soft against my weathered skin. The house is always chilly. Sarah scrimps on heating. Despite James's comfortable income as a financial consultant in Boise, they're obsessed with saving every penny, questioning every expense, from light bulbs to groceries. Sometimes, I think they'd understand money better if they'd ever truly struggled, if they'd known the lean years Clara and I endured. In the mirror, I see a frail man, gray hair thinning, deep wrinkles framing tired eyes. My hands, scarred and calloused from 45 years as an electrician at Boise's power plant, tell a story of honest labor, steady pay, and a modest pension. At least, that's what everyone believes. The secret I've carried for 20 years weighs heavier than any electrical cable I ever laid, a burden that grows with each passing day. In 2003, I won $2,500,000 in the Idaho State Lottery. I told no one, not Clara, who was already battling cancer, nor our children, Sarah and my eldest son, Michael. Both were spoiled, always needing money, always expecting more. Whenever Clara and I helped them financially, college tuition, car payments, wedding costs, they'd return, hands outstretched, ungrateful. If they knew about the winnings, they'd have burned through it in a few years, then blamed me for not having more. So, I stayed silent, deposited the money in a high-interest account, and a year after Clara's death, I bought this house in Boise for $800,000, a 3-story beauty in a quiet, upscale neighborhood, with a wide porch and a backyard overlooking a serene creek. But I told the kids it was a rental, not mine, to protect the fortune from their greed. "Henry, you're late," Sarah shouts from downstairs, her voice sharp, pulling me from my thoughts. I shuffle to the kitchen, where James sits, engrossed in his tablet, barely acknowledging my presence. Our relationship is polite but cold, distant. To him, I'm just his wife's father, an old man to tolerate, a burden to manage. "Good morning," I say, settling into my usual chair at the worn kitchen table. Sarah places a bowl of plain oatmeal before me, no butter, half an apple. The same meager breakfast every day. "For your health," she claims. But we both know it's about pinching pennies. "You haven't forgotten Michael and his kids are visiting today?" she asks, pouring herself a cup of cheap coffee. "I hope you won't hide in your room like last time." "I'm not hiding from my son," I reply, stirring the gray mush in my bowl, its blandness mirroring the routine. "Then why barely speak to him at Christmas?" she snaps, crossing her arms tightly across her chest. He thinks you don't love him. I look up from my plate, meeting her gaze. When did he last call just to talk? Not ask for money, James snorts, his eyes still fixed on his screen, a flicker of amusement crossing his face. Sarah shoots him a warning glance. He's busy. Henry, he runs a logistics company, has 2 kids, yet always finds time to ask for funds for a new truck or warehouse expansion. I shrug, my voice dry. Quite a coincidence. Isn't it? Sarah's face hardens, her lips a thin line. You're unfair. We all care about you. Who took you in when you couldn't live alone? Who cooks your meals? Washes your clothes? Drives you to the doctor? I want to shout. I live in my own house. Not yours. But I swallow the words, nodding as I've done countless times before. I'm grateful for the roof over my head, I say, the lie bitter on my tongue. Exactly, Sarah says, nodding contentedly, considering the matter closed. At that moment, Emily, my 20-year-old granddaughter, enters the kitchen, a sophomore at Boise State University. She's the only one in this house who speaks to me without obligation. Her warmth a rare light in this cold home. Morning, everyone, she says, her smile genuine as she leans to kiss my cheek. How'd you sleep? Grandpa half the night counting sheep, half counting my aching feet, I joke, my voice soft. She laughs, a bright sound that lifts my spirits. Sarah rolls her eyes, never appreciating my humor. Got class today, I ask Emily, watching her pour coffee and grab a pear from the fruit bowl. Yeah, till 3. Then work at the coffee shop till 9, she replies, her energy infectious. I can pick you up tomorrow for a walk in Julia Davis Park. Sarah interrupts, her tone sharp. Grandpa's busy. Emily. The plumber's coming to fix his bathroom leak. I can do both, I say, my voice firm. Plumbers come early. We don't know the exact time, Sarah counters. You'd better stay home all day. I don't argue, it's pointless. Sarah always has a reason to keep me confined, as if she fears I'll collapse on the street and she'll have to deal with the fallout. Emily shoots her mother a frustrated glance but holds her tongue. She's learned to pick her battles, a wisdom beyond her years. Gotta go, she says, downing her coffee in one gulp. See you tonight. She kisses my cheek again and bounds out of the kitchen, the front door slamming behind her. The house feels colder, emptier, in her absence. James rises, gathering his briefcase and coat. Don't forget to check the electric bill, he tells Sarah, his voice clipped. It was suspiciously high last month. His gaze flicks to me briefly, implying I'm the culprit. I hardly use lights, I say, my tone even. And I only watch TV in the evenings. No one's blaming you. Henry, James says, his smile forced, insincere. But bills are piling up, and your pension isn't exactly stretchy. Is it? I nod, my thoughts drifting to the millions sitting quietly in my bank account, a secret no one suspects. Sometimes I wonder why I keep this truth buried. But then I remember Sarah's calculating eyes, Michael's endless calls always ending in requests for cash. When James leaves, Sarah begins clearing the table. Did you remember to pay rent Monday? She asks without looking at me, her voice sharp. I did, I reply, keeping my tone neutral. Every month, I transfer $2,500 to Sarah's account. Money she believes goes to a landlord. In truth, I'm moving funds between my own accounts. I'm the landlord, a fact she'd never guess. And utilities, she adds, her eyes still on the dishes. Your share's $450 this month. I nod silently, though the amount keeps rising despite my minimal use of electricity and water. Sarah thinks it's fair, believing I'm living in their house, enjoying their benefits. I retreat to my room, small but cozy, a sanctuary of sorts. A single bed, a worn desk, a chair by the window, a bookshelf filled with dog-eared detective novels I reread in endless cycles. On the desk sits an old radio receiver I restored with my own hands, its hum one of the few pleasures left to me. Fixing old electronics keeps my mind sharp, my hands busy, I sit by the window, gazing at the backyard. Boise's spring is breathtaking lilacs blooming in vibrant purples, fresh green grass, birds returning from their southern migrations. Clara loved this time of year. We'd sit on the porch of our old house, sipping tea, watching the world awaken. Sometimes, I think she'd disapprove of my deception, her voice echoing in my mind. Henry Thompson, you've turned into a sly old fox. But then I remember her tears when Sarah and Michael came for money, ignoring her illness, her pain. We raised selfish children, she said once, her voice heavy with regret. Maybe she'd understand why I've kept this secret, why I've lived this double life for so long. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway pulls me from my thoughts. I peer out the window, Michael's gray SUV, my son, his wife, Rachel, and their teenage children. Liam and Sophie step out. They rarely visit, though they live just 30 minutes away in Meridian. Michael, 51, looks older than his years, overweight, balding, perpetually stressed. His logistics company teeters on the edge of bankruptcy. Yet he buys expensive cars and sends his kids to private schools, chasing an image of success. I leave my room to greet them. Sarah's already at the door, hugging her brother, her voice rising an octave with warmth she never shows me. Michael, I'm so glad you're here. Kids, you've grown so much. The teens mumble greetings, their eyes glued to their phones, barely acknowledging my presence. Rachel and Sarah retreat to the kitchen, chattering about some new diet trend. Michael and I are left alone in the living room, an awkward silence settling between us. How's business, I ask, though I already know the answer. Tough. He sighs, rubbing his neck. More competition. Clients demanding more for less. He lowers his voice, his tone shifting. Say, Dad, got any spare cash? I need to upgrade my truck fleet, or I'll lose a major contract with Idaho Freight. There it is, barely 5 minutes into the visit. Michael, you know my situation, I say, my voice steady. I'm living on my pension, paying Sarah rent and utilities. I know. He nods quickly, his eyes hopeful. But maybe you've got some savings tucked away for a rainy day. I'll pay it back with interest once the contract starts paying. I look at my son, 51 years old, and see the same boy who begged for a new bike because his old one wasn't cool enough. Same pleading eyes, same expectant tone. No savings, I say firmly. His face darkens, disappointment clear. I see. Just asking. The rest of the visit is tense. Michael barely speaks to me. The kids ignore me entirely, lost in their screens. After lunch, they leave abruptly, citing some urgent business. As the door closes, Sarah turns to me, her eyes narrowing. What did you say to him? He looked upset. Just that I can't fund his business, I reply, keeping my tone even. You're too harsh, she snaps, her arms crossed again. He's trying to keep his company afloat. And I'm trying to make it to the end of the month on my pension. I counter, half of which I give to you. Her lips press into a thin line, her voice sharp. You live in my house. Henry, you eat my food, use my electricity. It'd be strange if you didn't pay. Wouldn't it, my house, I think bitterly, marveling at how easily she's claimed my property, how confidently she demands payment for my right to live here. Of course, I say aloud, my voice flat. All fair. That evening, the house is quiet. I sit in my room, listening to soft jazz on my radio, the volume low to avoid disturbing Sarah and James. Through the wall, I hear them discussing my stubbornness, my ingratitude, how I must have hidden savings I'm not sharing. My reflection in the window pane shows an old man with a bitter smile, his eyes tired but resolute. 20 years I've kept this secret, lived this double life. Was it worth it? Would telling the truth from the start have been better? But then I see Sarah's greedy gaze, Michael's endless requests, and I know no. I did the right thing. The money wouldn't have changed them. it would have vanished faster than a blink. I miss Clara in moments like these. She was my compass, my conscience. Would she support me? Or would she condemn this deception? I can't be sure. Emily returns around 9:00 p.m., knocking softly on my door. "Grandpa, you awake?" she calls, her voice gentle. "Come in, sweetheart," I reply. She slips into the room, tired from a long day of classes and work at the coffee shop, but her smile is warm, genuine. "How was your day?" she asks, sitting on the edge of my bed, her eyes bright with concern. "Your uncle came by," I say. "Asked for money for his trucks." "As usual." She rolls her eyes, a mix of amusement and frustration. "Typical. He never just shows up to visit, does he?" I shrug, a faint smile tugging at my lips. "He's got his own problems." "That's no excuse to use you," she says, her brow furrowing. "Mom's the same way. They both think you owe them something." Her insight at 20 astounds me, seeing truths that adults twice her age miss. "You're so much like your grandmother," I say softly. "Clara always told the truth, even when it was hard." Emily smiles, a touch of sadness in her eyes. "I wish I could remember her. I was only 4 when she died." "She'd be proud of you," I say, my voice thick with emotion. "You're the only one in this family not obsessed with money. Maybe because I've never had much to obsess over." She laughs, her tone light but honest. We talk for a while about her studies, her job at the coffee shop, the book she's reading for class. She yawns, stretches, and stands. "Time for bed. Early class tomorrow." She leans over, kisses my cheek. "Good night, Grandpa. Don't let them hurt you." Her words linger as she leaves, a quiet reminder of her care. Alone again. I sit by the window, staring into the Boise night. In moments like these, I consider telling Emily the truth that her poor grandfather has millions, that she'll inherit a fortune one day. She deserves to know, to be prepared for a future free of financial worry. But it would mean asking her to keep my secret from her parents, placing a burden on her young shoulders. No. It's better to wait until she's out of college, standing on her own. For now, I'll continue playing the role of the old man living on a meager pension, dependent on his daughter's grudging generosity. I'll pay rent for my own house, endure the pointed looks when I turn on a light during the day. It's a strange life, built on lies and pretense, but it's my choice, my shield. As long as I can sit in the quiet of my room, listening to jazz and remembering Clara, I can bear it. Sunday morning greets me with a headache, the neighbor's lawnmower roaring at 8:00 a.m., sharp, as it does every week. I reach for the pills on my nightstand. Medication is as much a part of my routine as coffee now. Through the wall, I hear Sarah and James in the kitchen, their voices muffled but clear enough to catch words like bills and problems. Always money, their eternal obsession. I dress slowly, pulling on a sweater to ward off the house's chill, and make my way to the kitchen. Their conversation pauses abruptly when I appear in the doorway. "Good morning," I say, heading for the coffee maker, the cheap brew bitter but familiar. Sarah sits at the table, surrounded by a stack of bills, receipts, and bank statements, her calculator clicking furiously. James stands by the window, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Henry, we were just talking about you," James says, his tone businesslike, detached. "Did you remember your rent is due tomorrow?" I pour my coffee, stifling my annoyance. It's the same every month, as if I'd forget. "I wired the money today," I say, keeping my voice steady. "Also, electricity rates went up again." He continues, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Your share this month will be $500. I nearly choke on my coffee, the mug warm in my hands. 500. It was $450 last month. Inflation. "Henry," James says, as if explaining the obvious to a child. "Everything's getting more expensive. Plus, you're home all day, watching TV, turning on lights. I hardly watch TV. I object, my voice rising slightly, and I only use lights when I need to. The meter doesn't lie, Sarah interjects, her eyes fixed on her paperwork, not meeting mine. If you think it's too much, we can install a separate meter for your room. I know arguing is futile, they'll always find a way to justify squeezing more from me, even if it means bending the truth. I've long suspected they inflate my share of the utilities, but there's no way to prove it. All right, I say finally, swallowing my frustration. 500 it is. Sarah nods, satisfied, as if she's won a negotiation. James pats my shoulder, his touch heavy with false concern. We all have to tighten our belts. Henry, times are tough. I nod, my mind drifting to the millions in my account. Tough times. Indeed. After breakfast, I step outside to stretch my legs. The Boise spring air warm on my face. The neighborhood hums with normalcy, neighbors tending their gardens, washing cars, living lives that seem simpler than mine. I wonder if their children treat them with the same cold calculation. My house stands out, one of the largest on the street. 3 stories with a wide front porch and a backyard that opens to a peaceful creek. It's a beautiful home, a testament to the fortune I hid so carefully. Good morning, Henry, calls Tom Harris, our neighbor to the right, a friendly insurance agent in his 50s. He's trimming his hedges, his smile easy. Heard the Wilsons are selling their place, he says, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Asking $1,200,000. Really, I say, feigning interest to be polite. Yeah, Tom continues, clearly enjoying the gossip. Realtor says there's a lot of interest. This neighborhood's getting hot, prices are skyrocketing. I nod, my thoughts turning inward. If the Wilsons' smaller house is worth $1,200,000, what's mine worth? I paid $800,000 20 years ago, and Boise's real estate market has exploded since. Ever thought of selling? Tom asks suddenly, wiping sweat from his brow. It's a big house for just 3 of you. Must be hard to keep up. I smile, slipping into my practiced lie. It's not mine, Tom. I just rent a room from Sarah. Oh, right. Forgot, he says, nodding. Well, tell Sarah my cousin's a great realtor for high-end properties. He specializes in places like yours. I take his business card. The seed of an idea taking root. I'll let her know. I lie, pocketing the card as I say goodbye and continue my walk. The thought of selling the house hadn't crossed my mind seriously before, but Tom's words linger. Why not sell? What would Sarah do if the landlord decided to put the property on the market? I chuckle, imagining her shock, her outrage. But the idea takes a more serious turn as I walk. Why not sell and reclaim my life, free from Sarah's constant reproaches, from paying to live in my own home, from the daily humiliations? Clara might call it petty revenge, her voice echoing in my memory. Henry, you're becoming just like them. But maybe, seeing how Sarah treats me, she'd understand. I think back to 1968 when I met Clara at a community dance in Boise. I was 20, she was 19, the most beautiful woman in the room, tall, with auburn hair and a laugh that made everyone smile. We married a year later, bought a modest house on the city's outskirts. I worked as an electrician, she as a school teacher. We were happy, despite our simple means. Then Michael was born, followed by Sarah, and everything changed. They demanded expensive toys, designer clothes, always wanting more. Clara and I worked overtime to provide, but it was never enough. When Clara fell ill, they rarely visited her in the hospital, too busy with their own lives. I sigh, returning to the present, my walk leading me to a small park at the street's end. I sit on a bench, watching ducks glide across the pond, their calm a stark contrast to my turmoil. What would Clara say about my current life? Tell them the truth. Henry, she'd likely urge, stop hiding. But it's too late for truth, too many years, too many lies. If I confess now, they'd never forgive the deception. And I'm not sure I care for their forgiveness anymore. Back home for dinner, I find Sarah in a foul mood, slamming cabinet doors in the kitchen. What's wrong? I ask gently, bracing for her reply. The water heater broke again. She snaps, her voice dripping with frustration. Third time this year? This house just eats money. I suggest calling a different repairman, hoping to be helpful. You're an expert on water heaters now, she sneers, her sarcasm cutting. Or maybe you've got spare cash for a fancy repairman. I stay silent, knowing any response will only fuel her anger. Exactly, she continues, turning to face me. You sit here criticizing, but who's paying me and James? As always. Do you know how much it costs to run this house? Repairs? Insurance? Taxes? Yes, I do. I want to say, I've been paying for 20 years. Instead, I nod. I understand it's expensive. You don't understand anything, she says, sitting across from me, arms crossed tightly. You live here, enjoy all the amenities, and all you do is pay your share on time. Even that's a problem. I always pay on time, I say, feeling anger rise in my chest. Yes, but it's not enough. She raises her voice. Prices are going up. Henry, we can't subsidize your life anymore. Subsidize, I snap, my patience fraying. I pay $2,500 for a room, and $500 for utilities, more than my pension. Where does the rest come from? She shouts, her face red. Does it fall from the sky? It's me and James working our tails off to keep this house. I take a deep breath, trying to calm myself. This is going nowhere but another fight. I can increase my share if needed, I say finally. Or I can look for another place to live. Sarah snorts, her eyes narrowing. And where would you go? Who'd rent to a 77-year-old with a meager pension? You realize we didn't take you in for the money, but because you're our father. That doesn't mean you can freeload. Take it in, she says, the words slicing like a blade. Every time she says it, I feel like a stray dog, pitied and tolerated. At that moment, James walks in, sweaty from a run, sensing the tension immediately. What's going on? He asks, glancing between us. The water heater's broken, Sarah replies, her voice sharp. And Henry thinks we should spend more on expensive repairmen. I didn't say that, I counter, my tone firm. I was just making a suggestion. Doesn't matter what you suggested, James interrupts, his voice cold. This house is getting more expensive to run, and your contribution stays the same. It's not fair to us. I just told Sarah I'm willing to increase my share, I say, feeling backed into a corner by how much James asks, his tone all business. Another $600 a month would cover the rising costs. I swallow hard. Another $600. That's nearly impossible on my pension, though my savings could cover it easily. I need to think about it, I say, my voice steady but strained. Think fast, James snaps. The bills won't wait. He leaves the kitchen, leaving me alone with Sarah. She looks at me, her expression a mix of disappointment, annoyance, and perhaps a hint of pity. You know we're not going to kick you out, she says more quietly, but you have to pay your fair share. This is adult life. Dad, nothing comes for free. Adult life, she says to a man who's lived 77 years, worked decades, buried his wife, raised 2 children. I know, I reply, holding back my anger. I'll think about your offer. The next day, on my usual walk, I see a realtor outside the Wilsons' house, hammering a for sale sign into the lawn. Without fully knowing why, I approach him. Hello, I say, selling the Wilsons' place. The man turns, offering a professional smile. That's right, David Carter, Boise Elite Realty. He hands me a business card, crisp and polished. Interested in buying? I grin. shaking my head. No, just curious. I live in the neighborhood. I point to my house across the street. David whistles, his eyes appraising the 3-story structure. That's a stunning house, one of the best in this area. If you ever want to sell, come to me. You'd get a great price in this market. Really, I say, feigning surprise. How much do you think it's worth? He squints, assessing it from afar. Hard to say without an inspection, but given the location, size, and current market, I'd estimate at least $100,000, maybe $200,000 if it's in good condition. I whistle, playing the part of a shocked old man. Wow. Is it a good time to sell the best in years? David says confidently. Demand is high, supply is low. Homes in this neighborhood sell in days, often above asking price. No, I say hastily. The house isn't mine. I just live there with my daughter. She's the owner. I see. David nods, unfazed. Well, if your daughter ever considers selling, here's my card. I can arrange a free appraisal. I take the card, slipping it into my pocket, thanking him the rest of the day. I can't stop thinking about our conversation. $100,000, maybe $200,000, far more than the $800,000 I paid 20 years ago. That kind of money could secure my comfort for the rest of my days, free from Sarah's demands, James's pointed looks, the constant pressure to justify every dime I spend. That evening, alone in my room, I pull out David's business card and stare at it for a long time. I take out my cell phone, save his number just in case, I tell myself, just to know I have a choice. The idea of selling the house grows, a quiet rebellion against the life I've been forced to lead. The next few days pass in relative calm. Sarah's busy at work. James is away on a business trip, and Emily spends most of her time at college or the coffee shop. I savor the rare solitude, listening to jazz, reading my mysteries, tinkering with my old radio. But Thursday night, the storm breaks again. Sarah comes home in a terrible mood, her face tight with frustration. I'm in the kitchen, sipping tea and reading the Boise Statesman, when she storms in, tossing her bag on the table with a thud. Did you wire the rent money, she asks, skipping any greeting. Yes. Back on Monday, I reply, keeping my eyes on the paper, and the extra she presses, folding her arms across her chest. What extra? I look up, meeting her gaze. We talked about increasing your share, she says, her voice sharp. Another $600 a month. You said you'd think about it. I did. I say calmly. I've decided I can't afford it. My pension isn't flexible. Sarah's face flushes red, her eyes narrowing. So, you expect us to keep covering your expenses. That's not fair. Henry, I'm paying a fair price for a room. I counter, my blood pressure rising. $2,500 for a small bedroom is more than market value. It's not just the room. She raises her voice, her hands gesturing wildly. You're using the kitchen, the living room, the yard. You consume electricity, water, gas. I pay for utilities separately. I interrupt, my voice firm, and the amounts keep going up, even though I use almost nothing. You use more than you think. She snaps back. And even if you didn't, the property itself is getting more expensive. Taxes go up. Insurance goes up. Someone has to pay for it all. I take a deep breath, striving for calm. I understand it's costly to maintain a house, but I can't pay more than I am now. If you need extra money, maybe talk to Michael. Sarah laughs, a bitter, humorless sound. Are you serious? He's got his own problems, kids. A business, a mortgage. Unlike you, he has real expenses. I have expenses too, I say quietly, my voice steady. Medications, doctors, mostly covered by insurance. Don't play poor. Henry. She cuts me off, her voice dripping with disdain. We both know you must have savings. You worked your whole life, lived modestly. Where did all that money go? I pause. the weight of my secret pressing against me. Should I tell her the truth? Admit to the millions in my account? Or hold fast to the lie I've maintained for 2 decades? I spent most of it on your mother's treatment. I say finally, a half-truth. Clara's care was costly, though it didn't drain my funds. The rest went to living expenses. Life's expensive. Sarah, especially when you're old and sick. She looks at me, disbelief clear in her eyes. I don't believe you, she says bluntly. You're hiding something. I always knew you were, but you know what? It's not my problem anymore. She steps closer, looming over me. Here's the deal. Dad, either you increase your share by $600 a month, or you find another place to live. I'm done subsidizing your life at the expense of my family's well-being. I look at her, my youngest daughter, the girl I once carried in my arms, read bedtime stories to, bought ice cream for on Sunday afternoons in the park. Now she stands before me, a stranger, her eyes cold and calculating. Are you kicking me out? I ask quietly, my voice steady despite the sting of her words. I'm setting fair terms, she replies, her tone unyielding. This is business. Henry, nothing personal. Nothing personal. I think, the words echoing painfully. My own daughter calls evicting her father a business decision. I understand, I say, rising from the table. Give me a week to decide. There's nothing to decide. Sarah cuts me off, her voice razor sharp. Pay the rent or get out. Her words hang in the air, cutting deep. I walk silently to my room, close the door, and pull David Carter's business card from my pocket. I stare at it for a long time, the weight of my decision settling in. Then I pick up my cell phone and dial, Mr. Carter, this is Henry Thompson. We spoke outside the Wilsons' house. I'd like to discuss the possibility of selling my house. I don't wait the week I gave myself. The next morning, after the fight with Sarah, I start packing. There isn't much to gather: clothes, a few books, my restored radio, photos of Clara, personal papers, my entire life. 77 years, fits into 2 suitcases and a cardboard box. A sad summation of my existence. Sarah's at work, unaware of my decision. Emily walks in, sees the suitcases, and freezes in the doorway, her eyes wide with shock. Grandpa, what's going on? She asks, her voice trembling. I look at my granddaughter, the only person in this house who truly cares for me, her concern genuine. I'm moving out, honey, I say, trying to keep my tone calm, reassuring. Your mom gave me an ultimatum yesterday. Either I pay more rent, or I leave. I can't afford the increase, so the choice is clear. Emily steps closer, sitting on the bed beside me, her face a mix of anger and sadness. This isn't right, she says softly. She can't do this to you. You're her father. I take her hand, squeezing gently. In some families, sweetheart, money matters more than blood ties. Her eyes glisten with tears. Where will you go? She asks, her voice breaking. I found a small apartment downtown, I reply, keeping my voice steady. It's modest, but it's enough for me alone. Don't worry, I won't be on the street. I'd arranged the apartment a week ago, as if anticipating this moment. A small place in an older Boise building, clean and furnished. Renting for $1.500 a month, far less than the $2.500 I paid Sarah for a single room in my own house. I'll come visit you, Emily promises, hugging me tightly, her arms warm and comforting. I'll be waiting, I say, smiling. Don't tell your mother I gave you the address. Let her think I've vanished from her life, as she wanted. Emily nods, though I see the conflict in her eyes. Torn between love for her grandfather and loyalty to her mother at just 20 years old, the cab arrives at noon. I take one last look at the room I've lived in for 5 years, pretending to be a poor old man dependent on my daughter's grudging charity. The irony is sharp. I'm leaving my own home, evicted by a woman who doesn't know she's been living under my roof. Emily helps carry my things to the cab, gives me a final hug. "I'll call tomorrow," she says, her voice thick. "I'll be waiting," I reply, climbing into the cab. As we drive away, I glance back at the house, a grand, beautiful structure, bought with lottery winnings that fell like a gift from the heavens 20 years ago. A house that will soon no longer be mine. The apartment is exactly as I expected, typical housing for a retiree on a tight budget. A small bedroom, a cramped living room combined with a kitchen, a bathroom where you can barely turn around. Everything is old but clean, functional. I unpack slowly, placing Clara's photo on the bedside table, its familiar frame grounding me. I sit in the worn armchair by the window, a strange mix of emotions washing over me: sadness at how things have turned out with Sarah, relief at escaping her daily criticisms, and a quiet determination to see my plan through. The next day, I meet David Carter at a cafe near my new apartment. He's surprised when I call, even more so when I reveal the house belongs to me. Not Sarah, but his professional composure returns quickly. "Mr. Thompson," he says, extending his hand. "I'm glad you chose my services. Your house is a gem in Boise's real estate market." I nod, sipping my coffee, its warmth steadying me. "I want to sell it quickly and quietly," I say. "There's one delicate detail: my daughter and her family, who live there, don't know I own it." David raises his eyebrows but doesn't pry. "I understand family matters can be complex," he says smoothly. "We can handle the sale confidentially. However, buyers will need to view the house." "I know," I interrupt. "Tell Sarah the current owner decided to sell, and she'll have the standard eviction period after the deal closes. She doesn't need to know I'm the owner." David taps his fingers thoughtfully on the table. "It's possible. We can process the sale through a trust or LLC to conceal your name. But are you sure about this path? Family secrets tend to surface at the worst times." I chuckle dryly. "This secret's held for 20 years. A few more months won't hurt." "As you wish." David nods. "Now, about the price. After a preliminary appraisal and market analysis, I recommend listing at $1,150,000. It's aggressive but realistic given the demand. I'd suggest a minimum acceptable price of $1,050,000. If we get an offer at or above that, will you sell immediately?" I nod, impressed by his clarity. "That sounds reasonable. Let's set $1,050,000 as the floor." David smiles, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "You know your real estate, Mr. Thompson. That's a solid threshold. I'm confident we'll get offers above it." We discuss details: agency commission, showing schedules, marketing strategy. David is professional, thorough, explaining each step clearly. By the end of the meeting, I feel confident I'm in good hands. "I'll have documents ready by week's end," he says, standing to leave. "In the meantime, I'll take photos and create a virtual tour." "When's a good time to show the house?" "Sarah works weekdays, 9:00 to 5:00, I say. "That's best. I'll give you the key." He nods, and we part ways. I return to my apartment, a strange relief settling over me. The wheels are turning. My plan, born of years of frustration, is becoming reality. That evening, Sarah calls. I stare at the blinking phone screen, tempted to ignore it, to cut her out as she tried to cut me. But curiosity wins. What will she say? "Hello." I answer, my voice neutral. "Henry, where are you?" she demands, her tone a mix of annoyance and faint concern. "Someplace safe," I reply evasively. "You moved out without even saying goodbye," she exclaims. "I come home, and you're gone. Your stuff, too. Emily said you took a cab and left. What did you expect?" "Sarah," I say, my voice calm but firm, "you literally kicked me out." "I did not kick you out," she retorts. her voice rising. I said you should pay your fair share, which you couldn't afford. Which is the same as eviction, I remind her, my tone steady. There's a long silence on the line, then a sigh. Look, maybe I was too harsh, she says, her voice softer, almost conciliatory. We can talk about this. You shouldn't be living alone at your age, it's dangerous. I suppress a bitter laugh. There it is, she's not worried about me, but about her budget without my rent payments. I'm doing fine on my own, I reply. I found a small apartment I can afford. No need to worry. But your things, she starts. Grasping for control, I took what I need. I interrupt. The rest you can keep or toss. Whatever you want. Henry, you're being unreasonable, she says, her superior tone returning. You're 77 years old. You can't just go off and live alone. Clearly. I can, I say, my voice firm. And I am. Don't worry, Sarah. I won't be a burden to you and James. That's not the point, she exclaims, frustration creeping in. We're a family. We stick together. Family, I think. The word hollow after her ultimatum. I'm sorry, Sarah. But you shattered that illusion when you gave me that ultimatum. I say calmly, I respect your choice, and I've made mine. It's best for all of us. She tries to argue, to coax me back, but I remain steadfast. Finally, she gives up. Fine. Do what you want, she says, her voice cold. But when you find it hard to live alone, don't come crying to me. Don't worry, I reply. I won't. I hang up, the weight of the call lingering. Over the next few days, I settle into my new apartment. I buy groceries, find the nearest pharmacy, study the Boise bus schedule. Without Sarah's constant nagging, without the need to justify every dollar spent, I breathe easier, freer. Despite the modest surroundings, I feel a lightness I haven't known in years. Emily calls the second day, as promised, and visits that evening, bringing homemade cookies and a new book. How are you settling in? She asks, looking around the small space, her eyes curious but kind. Quite comfortable, I reply, pouring tea into mismatched mugs. It's quiet. The neighbors are mostly old folks like me. There's even a small park nearby where I walk in the mornings. Emily sits at the tiny kitchen table, resting her chin on her hands. Mom's furious. She says, her voice low, at first, she thought you were bluffing, that you'd come back. Now she realizes you're serious, and it's driving her crazy. I grin, unsurprised. I can imagine. How's James taking it? He's worried about money, she says, rolling her eyes. He's calculating how much they'll have to pay for the house without your rent. They're acting like you betrayed them, not the other way around. I shake my head, not wanting to pull Emily deeper into the conflict. What about Michael? Does he know I moved out? Yeah, Mom called him, she says, sipping her tea. He said something like, typical Henry, always thinking of himself. Sorry, Grandpa, but Uncle Michael's kind of a jerk. I laugh, a genuine, open laugh, the first in a long time. No need to apologize, honey. It's a tough family, as they say. We talk for nearly 2 hours about her college classes, her part-time job at the coffee shop, her dreams of becoming a journalist covering social issues. She has big plans, a sharp mind, and a kind heart. I hope the money she'll one day inherit from me will help her achieve those dreams. When she leaves, the loneliness creeps in, but it's not oppressive. It's a calm, peaceful solitude, the kind that comes with freedom. 3 days later, David Carter calls with news. Mr. Thompson. We have interested buyers already, he says, his voice brimming with excitement. I took photos and a virtual tour yesterday, posted the listing this morning, and we've got 5 viewing requests. That fast, I ask, genuinely surprised. I told you the market's hot, he replies. Your house is a rare find, 3 stories, excellent condition. Prime Boise neighborhood. These don't come up often. We agree on a showing schedule, with David bringing potential buyers when Sarah's at work. I give him a spare set of keys, emphasizing discretion. Leave no trace. I say, lock everything as it was. Don't worry, Mr. Thompson, he assures me. I'm a professional. Your daughter won't suspect a thing until the last moment. The next day, Sarah calls again, her tone softer, almost apologetic. Henry, I've been thinking about our situation, she begins. Maybe we can find a compromise. You could pay a little more, not the full $600, maybe $300. That's an interesting offer, I reply neutrally, sipping my tea. What's changed? Nothing's changed, she says quickly. Too quickly. You're my father. I don't want you living alone in some cheap apartment. It's not safe. I suppress a chuckle. She's never been good at lying. Without my rent, their budget is crumbling. Thanks for your concern, I say, my voice calm. But I'm settled. I signed a 6-month lease, paid a deposit. It's quiet here, no one telling me how much electricity I can use or when to turn on the heat. Henry, be reasonable, she says, irritation creeping into her voice. You can't live alone. What if you fall or get sick at night? I have a phone for emergencies, I reply. And I'm not as frail as you think. I can manage, she sighs, exasperated. You've always been stubborn. Even Mom said you were impossible to argue with. The mention of Clara stings. A low blow. Sarah rarely speaks of her mother, as if she's erased her from memory. Clara knew when to push and when to let go, I say quietly. It's a shame you didn't inherit that. The conversation ends quickly after that. Sarah mumbles something about calling later and hangs up. I know she'll keep trying, not out of care, but because she needs my money. The week passes quickly. David calls daily with updates on showings and potential buyers. Interest in the house is overwhelming. 12 families view it in 3 days, half expressing serious intent. On the 7th day, he calls with exciting news. Mr. Thompson, we have an offer, he says, his voice vibrant. $1,075,000 cash. Quick close. The buyers are a retired couple from Seattle. Love the creek view. My heart beats faster. $1,075,000 is more than I'd hoped. After fees and taxes, I'd net about $950, enough for a comfortable life alongside my existing savings. I accept. I say without hesitation. Good, David exclaims. I'll prepare the documents and contact their realtor. We can close in 2 weeks if all goes smoothly. What about your daughter? Notify her as soon as the preliminary contract is signed. I say. The sooner she knows, the better. After the call, I sit by the window, gazing at the Boise street below, pondering my choice. Part of me feels bitter, disappointed this isn't how I imagined my final years, surrounded by a loving family, grandchildren visiting, a daughter who cared out of love, not obligation. Instead, I'm selling my house to spite a woman who sees me as a source of income. But another part feels a strange satisfaction. Sarah will finally know the truth that she's been living in my house, charging me rent for the privilege, that I'm not a helpless old man dependent on her charity, that I could pull the rug out from under her at any moment. And now I am. Clara wouldn't approve of this revenge, her voice whispering in my mind. Anger destroys the soul of the one who feels it. Henry. But she didn't see Sarah's coldness, hear her demands, endure the daily humiliations. I sigh, looking at Clara's photo on the nightstand. I'm sorry, darling, I whisper. But even patient men break eventually. The next few days are filled with paperwork. I sign documents, answer lawyers' questions, provide bank statements. David handles the process expertly, explaining each step, warning of potential pitfalls. Sarah calls several times, still trying to convince me to return, but I answer evasively. not wanting to give false hope or reveal my plans. Let her learn from the realtor. Like any tenant. It feels fair. On the 10th day, David calls with news. Mr. Thompson, the preliminary contract is signed, he says. The buyers put down a $107,500 deposit. We can now officially notify your daughter of the sale. How will you do it, I ask. Standard procedure is a registered letter informing her of the sale and requiring her to vacate within 30 days of closing, he explains. But in your case, a personal meeting might be more effective. I can visit tomorrow and explain everything. She'll be furious. I warn, David chuckles. In 15 years in this business, I've seen it all. Tenant anger is par for the course. I agree to his plan but ask him to keep my involvement secret until the end. He promises confidentiality, though he warns that my name will appear in the final documents. If Sarah reviews the deeds, she'll see you're the seller, he says. I can't hide that. I understand, I reply. It won't matter by then. That night, I can't sleep, imagining David's visit to Sarah, her shock as she learns she's being evicted. I picture her calling James in a panic, their world upended. Part of me relishes the thought. But another feels a strange emptiness. Is this what I wanted to punish my own daughter? Even if she deserves it, I rise. Walk to the window. Boise sparkles with nighttime lights, indifferent to the small human dramas unfolding behind closed doors. Somewhere out there, Sarah sleeps, unaware that tomorrow her life will change. And I, her father, set it in motion. You're doing the right thing, I tell myself. She chose this path when she valued money over family, but a voice, soft like Clara's, whispers, are there winners in family wars, Henry, or only losers? I have no answer. The phone rings at 11:30 a.m. The next day. Sarah's name flashes on the screen. I take a deep breath, steeling myself, and answer. Hello, what the hell is going on? She shouts, her voice trembling with rage. No greeting, just straight to the point. What are you talking about? I ask, refusing to make it easy. Some realtor was here. She says, nearly screaming. He says the house is sold, and we have to move out 30 days after closing. There's a mistake. Right, you messed up the rent payment. This is it, the moment I've prepared for. No, Sarah. There's no mistake, I say calmly, my voice steady. The house has been sold. How is that possible? Her voice shakes, a mix of anger and desperation. You've paid rent on time. I check the bills myself. How can the landlord evict us? The landlord can do whatever he wants with his property. I say, choosing my words carefully, including selling it. Then we need to contact him immediately, she insists, her words tumbling out. Explain the situation. Offer to buy the house ourselves. James and I have good credit, we could. Sarah, I interrupt, my voice firm. You don't understand. The landlord's made his decision. The house is sold for $1,050,000. The money's paid. The document's signed. This is crazy, she cries, her voice breaking. We've lived here over 5 years. We should have rights. I hear the panic now. The realization sinking in. Henry, you've got to help us figure this out. You had the landlord's contact. Right, you paid him directly. I close my eyes. The moment of truth arriving. No. Sarah, I say slowly, each word deliberate. I didn't pay any landlord. I paid you. What are you talking about? She asks. Confusion clear. You paid me, and I paid the landlord. It was easier that way. No, I say, my voice clear, unyielding. You didn't pay a landlord because there was no landlord. The house has always belonged to me. Silence stretches on the line, heavy and stunned. I can almost see her face, shifting from confusion to shock, piecing together my words. What she finally whispers, her voice barely audible. What did you say? I said I owned the house. I repeat, each word measured. I bought it 20 years ago, after your mother died, with lottery winnings. I was never a tenant. That was a lie. No, she says, her voice a breathy gasp. That's impossible. You couldn't. You always said you were renting, that you were barely scraping by. I lied. I confirm, my tone steady but heavy, because I knew if I told you and Michael about the winnings, about the house, you'd bleed me dry. You were always like that, begging for college money, for cars, for weddings, never grateful, always wanting more. This is insane, she says, her voice rising, frantic. You're saying you lied to us for 20 years, that you let us think we were helping you, when really you were living in my house and charging me rent for the privilege I finish. My voice calm but cutting. Yes, that's exactly right. And now you've sold it, she says, her tone hardening. You're throwing your own daughter out on the street. I sold my property, I correct, my voice firm. The property you demanded money for. The property you threatened to kick me out of if I didn't pay more. Remember what you said? Pay the rent or get out. Well, I did. Now it's your turn to move. You're a monster. She exhales, her voice shaking with anger and hurt. How could you do this to your own family, your own daughter? What will Emily say when she learns her grandfather threw us out? I'm not throwing anyone out. I counter, my patience thinning. You have 30 days to find a new place. With your income, that shouldn't be a problem. And leave Emily out of this. She's the only one who's ever treated me with respect. She'll despise you when she knows the truth. Sarah hisses. We all will, Michael, James, the whole family. You'll be alone. Henry, all alone. Her words should hurt, but they don't, not as they might have once. Instead, I feel only fatigue, a bone-deep weariness. I'm already alone. Sarah, I say quietly, I've been alone since your mother died. You and Michael were never there unless you needed money. Your threats are 20 years too late. I hear her sob on the other end. A raw, genuine sound. The first real emotion in this call. It's not fair, she says, her voice trembling. You have no right to say that. We took care of you. You took care of my money, I interrupt, my voice steady but sharp. You don't even know what medications I take. Sarah, you don't know what books I read, what music I love. You never cared about my life, only my wallet. That's not true, she protests, her voice breaking. I cooked your meals, washed your clothes, took you to the doctor, and made me feel like a burden every step of the way. I add, my words cutting. You reminded me constantly how hard it was to have me here, tallying every watt of electricity, every drop of water. That's not care, Sarah. That's business. I can't believe you think that of us, she says, her voice quieter now, almost defeated. After all we've done. And I can't believe you can't see the truth, I reply. But it doesn't matter anymore. The house is sold. You have 30 days to find a new place. I suggest you start looking now. You'll regret this, she says, her voice turning cold, threatening. I'll tell everyone what you've done, family, neighbors. Everyone will know who you really are. Tell them, I say, shrugging though she can't see it. I have nothing left to hide. I press the end button, set the phone down, my hands trembling slightly. Despite my calm, the call wasn't easy. Relief mixes with sadness, a hollow triumph after years of silence. 15 minutes later, the phone rings again, Michael. I expected this. Sarah must have called him immediately, spilling everything. I take a deep breath and answer. Henry, what the hell are you doing? He shouts, his voice thick with rage. Sarah's hysterical, saying you sold the house and threw them out on the street. I sold my property, I say calmly, which I had every right to do. Why now? Why so suddenly? He demands, unable to grasp my motives. And why the hell didn't you tell us you owned the house? Because you'd have demanded your share, I say bluntly. Every time I had money, you and Sarah were there. Hands out. Remember when you asked for a loan for your business? Every call, every visit ended with you asking for more. That's not fair, he says, indignant. I asked because I thought you wanted me to succeed. You're my father. Damn it. And I helped. I remind him. Many times. But it was never enough. Was it always more? Never gratitude. Never respect. You didn't even visit on my birthday last year. I had a meeting. He defends, his voice weaker. I couldn't cancel. Of course, I say, my voice tired. There's always something more important than your old father. But when you need money, you find time to call. I can't believe you think that of us, he says. Resentment clear. We're your family. We took care of you. No. Michael, I say, shaking my head. You took care of what I could do for you. Not me. And now you think I'm getting revenge by throwing Sarah out. Aren't you? He snaps. I'm not throwing anyone out, I say patiently. They have 30 days to find a new place. With their income. That's plenty of time. 30 days is nothing, he exclaims. Do you know how hard it is to find a good house in Boise now prices are insane? I know. I say. That's why I sold. $1.050000 was a good price. He pauses, digesting the number. $1.050000. His tone shifts. Curious. Interested. What are you doing with that money? There it is, the greed surfacing, even in his anger. That's my business, I reply, my voice firm. But it's the family home, he protests. Mom would never approve of this. Don't bring your mother into this, I say sternly. She'd be ashamed of how you've treated me, how greedy you've become. That's low. Dad, he says, his voice cold. Using Mom against us. No lower than you using her memory to manipulate me, I retort. The conversation stalls, his accusations meeting my resolve. Finally, he gives up. Do what you want, he says. But don't come to us when you're alone and sick. Sarah and I are done. You were done long ago, I say quietly. Long before today. I end the call, sinking into my chair, exhausted not physically, but emotionally. Speaking truths I've held for years is both liberating and agonizing. The next call is from Emily, her voice worried. Grandpa, what's going on? Mom's hysterical. Saying you sold the house and kicked them out. Is it true? I sigh, hating that she's caught in this storm. Partially. I say honestly, I sold the house, but I'm not kicking anyone out. They have 30 days to find a new place. But how could you sell it? She asks. Confused. It belonged to Mom and Dad. Didn't it? No. Honey, I say softly. The house was always mine. I bought it 20 years ago. But I never told anyone. A pause. As she processes this. All this time, they were living in your house. Not the other way around, yes. I confirm, and charging me rent. Ironic, isn't it? Why didn't you tell us? She asks, bewildered. Because I knew your parents and Michael would want their share. I explain. I won the lottery. Emily, a big one. I bought the house and saved the rest. If they knew, the money would have been gone in a year. I didn't trust them. You knew them too well, she says. A sad understanding in her voice. Mom says it's revenge, that you wanted to punish them. I pause, considering. Was it revenge? Partly. I admit, but mostly, I was tired of lying, pretending, justifying every dollar. I wanted freedom. Emily, to use my money without fear of demands. I understand, she says quietly. But it's cruel. Grandpa, they're homeless now. They're not homeless. I counter. They have money to rent or buy, and 30 days is enough time. You're right, she sighs. It's just so sudden. I don't know what to think. You don't have to choose sides. Sweetheart, I say gently. I'll love you no matter what. I know, she says, her voice trembling. I'm just scared I won't see you anymore. Mom's furious. She says she'll never forgive you. That's her choice, I say. But my door's always open to you. After the call, I feel drained, as if years of suppressed emotions have erupted in a single day, leaving a scorched emptiness. There's no triumph, only fatigue, and a strange relief at no longer pretending. I turn off my phone, done with conversations for today. That evening, I walk the Boise streets, the air warm, scented with blooming trees. I think of Sarah's shock, Michael's anger, Emily's confusion. How one choice 20 years ago to hide my winnings led to this moment. Was I right? Maybe honesty from the start would have changed things. Maybe they'd have respected me more. Or maybe they'd have drained my savings faster. Clara's words echo, secrets destroy families. Henry, like termites in a tree. Was she right? Did I ruin our family with my lies? Or was it already broken by their greed? I don't know. And I doubt I ever will. But I'm done living a lie. Whatever comes next, I'll face it with open eyes, a clear conscience, back home. I turn on my phone, 10 missed calls from Sarah, 5 from Michael, 2 from Emily, and messages I don't read. I mute it, set it on the nightstand. Tomorrow. I'll deal with it. Tonight. I crave peace. I sit by the window, watching the sun set over Boise, its golden light softening the edges of my small world. A sense of freedom washes over me, the weight of 20 years lifting from my shoulders. Yes, I've hurt my children. Yes, they may never forgive me. But I'm no longer a prisoner of my lies, no longer a victim of their manipulations. For the first time in years, I feel real, not a poor old man, not a stingy father, but Henry Thompson, a 77-year-old widower with the right to live as he chooses. It's not a triumph, but a release. 3 weeks later, the sale closes. I receive a check for $950,000 after fees and taxes. Adding to my savings, I buy a 1-story house in southern Boise for $650,000, cozy. Practical, with 3 bedrooms, a spacious living room, and a veranda overlooking a well-kept garden. No stairs, wide doorways, perfect for an old man living alone. The realtor, Helen Marrow, is surprised when I pay in full. No mortgage, that's rare these days. Mr. Thompson, she says as we sign the papers. I'm too old for loans, I reply with a smile. I like owning things outright. I furnish the house to my taste comfortable. Quality pieces, not chosen for economy. A large armchair with an adjustable back, a modern TV for old movies, new clothes to replace the worn shirts I kept to avoid seeming wasteful. I see a new doctor. Dr. Phelps, a gerontologist recommended by a neighbor. He runs tests, prescribes better arthritis medication, and suggests a physical therapist. For your age, you're in great shape, he says. With proper care, you could live many active years. His words lift me. Sarah always said I was fading, a burden needing constant care. It's good to know I'm not as frail as she claimed. Sarah and James scramble to find a new place. Emily tells me during our regular calls. She's the only family member still in contact after the house scandal, as she calls it. They're looking at apartments, but they're not happy. She says one evening, Mom says nothing compares to the old house, and Dad's mad about rent costs. They fight constantly. I'm sorry you're caught in this, I say sincerely. Not your fault. Grandpa, she replies. Well, technically it is. But I get why you did it. I'd tire of their nagging too. Her wisdom at 20 amazes me. How's Michael taking it, I ask. Furious. She says you betrayed the family. But when Mom told him about your money, he called asking for a loan to expand his business right in the middle of it all. I'm unsurprised Michael's greed never wavers. Are your parents still mad, I ask. Mom is, she says after a pause. Says she'll never forgive you for lying and evicting them. Dad's more upset about the new costs. You know him, everything's about money. I nod, though she can't see. James, the financial analyst, sees life through profit and loss. Have they found a place, I ask, a twinge of guilt surfacing. I think so, Emily says. An apartment in a new complex downtown. Not as big as the house, but decent. Mom's still complaining it's a step down for her. Sarah's always cared about status, appearances, moving to an apartment, even a nice one, wounds her pride. When are you moving into your new house, Emily asks. Changing the subject. Already did. I say. Moved the last boxes yesterday. Come by, you'll like it. I will. She promises. Just don't tell Mom. She'd forbid me from seeing you. Our secret. I assure her. I sit on my new veranda, sipping tea, enjoying the warm evening. It's strange, years spent pretending to be a poor tenant, and now I'm free. But the cost is my family. Save for Emily. Was it worth it sometimes? I doubt myself, wondering if I should have endured for the sake of family ties. But Sarah's cold calculations, Michael's greed, the constant feeling of being a burden, these remind me freedom was worth the price. Emily visits days later, her eyes wide at my new home. Wow, Grandpa, she says, taking in the spacious living room. New furniture, modern appliances. This is amazing. Way better than I expected. What did you expect, I ask? Smiling. A shack. No. She laughs. Mom said you probably moved to some cheap apartment on the outskirts. She has no idea. She doesn't need to know. I say. We spend the afternoon together touring the house, the garden, cooking a real dinner with quality ingredients. Not Sarah's cheap pasta. You look happy. Grandpa, Emily says as we sit on the veranda after dinner. More relaxed. I am, I admit. For the first time, I'm free, no proving myself. No excuses for existing. I'm happy for you, she says, squeezing my hand. You deserve it. So do you, sweetheart, I reply. I've set up a trust for your education, your future. Her eyes widen. Grandpa, you don't have to. I want to, I interrupt. You're the only one who cared about me, not my money. You deserve a chance to chase your dreams without worry. Tears fill her eyes. Thank you, she whispers, hugging me tightly. What will Mom and Dad say they don't need to know? I wink. It's between us. The money's yours when you graduate. She hugs me again, like when she was a child, her warmth a balm to my heart. A month later, Michael calls, his voice unusually soft. Dad, how are you? Fine, I say cautiously, sensing a trap. Listen, I was too harsh last time. He says, I'd like to visit. See how you're settling in. I hear the gears turning. He's learned of my money, my new house, and wants a piece. I'm settled. I say, everything's done. His disappointment is palpable. He tries a few more times, then gives up, promising to call later. Sarah holds out longer, avoiding contact for 2 months. Then, one day, her car pulls up as I garden. She steps out, eyeing my house with undisguised amazement. Henry, she says, skipping a greeting. Nice place, thanks, I reply calmly. Why the visit? She steps closer, studying me. You look good, healthier, good food, good doctor, no stress. I say. She nods, eyeing the garden. The new furniture. Must have cost a lot. I can afford it, I say simply. She sighs. Look, Dad, we didn't part well. I was shocked, angry about your lie. But maybe we can fix things. We're family. Family, I repeat. Funny you mention that now. Not when you kicked me out. I didn't know it was your house. She protests. If I had, would you have respected me more? Or just asked for more money, I ask. She's silent, her answer clear. You came because you know about my money. I say, you missed your chance at a share. That's not fair, she says quietly. I gave you chances every day for 5 years, I reply. He treated me like a burden, not a father. We stand in silence, a chasm between us. She turns to her car. I thought you'd be miserable, needing us, she says. But you're fine alone. Yes, I agree. She drives away without goodbye. Months pass in peace. I garden, join a book club, play chess with other seniors. Emily visits often, sharing her dreams. Sarah and James buy a smaller house, their relationship strained. One spring morning, I sit on my veranda, sipping real coffee, reading the paper. My garden blooms tulips, daffodils, roses. The phone rings Sarah. I stare at the screen, debating. It's likely another manipulation, another plea for money. I mute it, return to my coffee. The sun rising over Boise. I'm Henry Thompson, 77, free to live my way. The phone quiets. I smile at the new day.